I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, I want to show you 4 of my favorite classic Marshall amp models in the Fractal AM4. And we're going to start off with the very first Marshall head ever released, the JCM45. It's modeled as the Brit JM45. There is a version of this with the inputs jumpered, but I personally prefer this straight up Brit JM45. All of the amps we look at today, I'm just going to pair with a single Dynacab in here. It's this 4x12 1960 TV with the Dynamic 2 microphone. This is going to give us some consistency across these amps. I think a nice thing about Marshalls is the classic format for a Marshall is a head and a cabinet. And a lot of people, myself included, who love classic Marshall amps and are lucky enough to own several of them, run them with our favorite cabinet. So it's really easy to mix and match in that regard. All right, with the JTM45 model, stock settings and just turn the bass down to taste. If you've got a really dark guitar, bring the bass down more. But for me, if I run this around 2 or 3, I've instantly got a great rock crunch that I can clean up into a lovely bluesy tone. I could combine it with something like the Angry Chuck overdrive on here and get a singing lead tone as well. I'll combine it with the gold plate and a little bit of dual delay as well. Let's hear it on the bridge pickup of this Les Paul Custom. Have been first, the JTM45 does sit in the shadow of the iconic Marshall Superlead amplifiers, the 100-watt Plexi or Superlead, depending on the type of head shell that it was produced in, essentially the 1959 circuit, and then the 50-watt version, which was known as the 1987 circuit. The names between the series, the circuit numbers, and the type of head shells they were placed in can get confusing, but Plexi is generally shorthand for that iconic Marshall tone. And I think my favorite Plexi in the box is this 50-watt 6CA7 version. I just like to turn the bass down, crank up all the other EQ controls, and set the gain where I've got enough distortion on here. And this is the sound most of us think of when we think of a classic Marshall. The real amp, I think people often underestimate just how much distortion these Plexis or Superleads have on tap. And that's in contrast to, well, if it's not the most famous Marshall amp like the Plexi, it's a very, very close second place. The JCM800, 2203 and 2204 circuits. 2203 for the 100-watt version, 2204 for the 50-watt version. I think these are kind of renowned as classic heavy metal amps, but they often need a boost up the front to do that thing. They are amazing sounding rock amps. This is one of my go-to amps in the entire Fractal ecosystem on here. You just kind of crank stuff up and go for it. So let's hear it again with the same cab and the same guitar. I like that 2203 model kind of makes you work for the tone on there, much like the real amps do. They're pretty unforgiving, but hit it with a boost, add some grease on the end, and you're in classic rock and 80s metal territory almost immediately. Now, like the Fender models in the AM4, there are no shortage of classic Marshalls represented. There's multiple different versions of the Plexis, 100 watts, 50 watts in there. There's a JTM45, there's a Silver Jubilee. There's a lot of Marshall derivatives like the Cameron, Splawn, or FAS hot rod models in there. But in terms of modern Marshalls, a lot of people love the Brit JVM model as their go-to high gain amp. And I can see why. It's got a bit of Marshall DNA, but it's got a little bit of that Soldano or 5150 thing going on as well. Now, in the AM4, rather than having separate models for the orange, green, and red modes on each channel, you've got consolidated models on here. So you can go orange, green, or red. I really love OD1 Orange on here. It's just such a fantastic sounding amp model, especially if you like drop D or drop C. It's nice and tight, but still really aggressive on there. There's also the OD2 channel modeled as well. Let's check out OD1 Orange. Hitting the JVM with a boost like the integrated preamp or the precision drive on there really sends it wild. This is a great amp to use, especially if you're playing in lower tunings as well. I'd love to hear from all of you though. What's your go-to when you're dialing in Marshall tones on the AM4? Do you reach for something like a Plexi or a JCM800 with a greenback cab? Do you go for the JVM? Do you go for something related like a Cameron Atomica or CCV or one of the Splawn models or FAS hot rod? There's so many great ways to get Marshall tones in here. I'd love to hear from all of you so I can pick up some tricks myself. And if you've got questions or comments, pop them in the comments section below. I'll play you all out with the JVM. I've got the Maxoff 808 on, and again, this lovely dual delay. I'll see you next time.